Yo, bro, what if I told you that you can actually get faster and more athletic without ever having to run?
These are 4 athletic progressions that you can use to catapult your body into elasticity, and we're gonna start right now. Transforming into an athletic freak means developing blast impulse, sustained impulse, putting out a large amount of power in a short period of time. We need to increase speed through greater neural adaptations, and that's gonna help improve our locomotive speed. That's gonna help improve our transient speed, and in turn, possibly our legacy. Great song from Coast Contra. So what's the best way to do this? Plyometric exercises. Plyometric exercises are a surefire way to improve your athleticism. You can move and generate a very, very large amount of force with minimal gym equipment. But why do plyometrics? How often do they need to be done? Where do we start? Let's start by saying you do plyometrics to increase your neural drive and your impulse capabilities. Plyometric exercises are movements that can generate a large amount of force. They're gonna be ballistic exercises, jumping exercises, anything that's gonna train that sustained and blast impulse. Large amount of force in a short period of time. So plyometrics can be used with contrast methods. So we can do this with an absolute strength movement along with a plyometric exercise. So let's say we do a back squat, set of 4, then you can rest 2 minutes and you can go over and do hurdle hops. This is gonna improve your neural drive for both exercises. It's also stellar to reserve an entire day devoted to plyometric movements, okay? We call that athlete day inside of our at peak strength. If you're using that, that third day will be devoted entirely to plyometrics to help you be more athletic. And from training with plyometrics, you will actually develop a fluidity in rigidity. Okay, that sounds pretty wild, but if we can think about how can we move like that rubber band, like that kangaroo, but actually still have some rigidity inside of our joints so that we have those great co-contractions that we're working towards. This is gonna lead to developing more innate body reactions. So then when we get into a complex situation, like a competitive situation in a sport, we're gonna be able to execute movements at higher speeds unconsciously. Our body's going to be able to react based off of what we've done in training. Have you ever watched someone jump off of a box and it's an absolute train wreck? Some people land off of a box and it's as easy and as natural as walking. You think nothing of it. Other people that might not be as athletic will let their hips sink. They won't be as rigid. They might collapse or take a stutter step, fall forward, anything along those lines. They don't have the brakes needed to absorb that energy, to absorb that force. And in such an instance, you need to master a depth drop. And we have progressions just like these inside of our at peak strength. You can get your first 7 days of programming absolutely free when you head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store or the Apple iOS Store. First, we can start with doing a depth drop, okay? Then when we master doing a depth drop, we can go depth drop into a box jump. The next step that we could do is then go depth drop into a hurdle hop. The next step would be depth drop into a bound. And then the final aspect would be depth drop into 2 bounds. And this is gonna show your advancement and your ability to handle that energy, to handle that force, and then reuse that to improve your overall power output. Now, in regards to peak strength, when you download that first 7 free days of training, if you don't like it, you can cancel at any time during those first 7 free days. But you're gonna see massive gains. You're gonna see massive strength improvements so that you can attain that peak strength. Now, let's get to that next exercise. Have you ever once had a skill and you seem to have just lost that skill? Take skipping, for example. Skipping is just like riding a bike. So skipping is great for developing that elasticity. It's great for developing overall athletic fitness, for athleticism in general. It's gonna improve your chaos coordination if you're in a sport that's an open skilled sport. It's a unilateral plyometric movement that's absolutely phenomenal. It's gonna help you learn that rhythm, that innate body reaction. And most importantly, it's going to enhance your overall reactivity. So when we're talking about skipping, we've got to go through an easy progression. And you can start with easy, slow skips moving forward. You could do 5 sets of 10 to 15 meters of just skipping forward. And then as you master that slower skip, you get back into that rhythm, you can start doing things like skipping for height or skipping for distance. And you can start to measure, okay, if I have 15 or 20 meters, how many skips do I get in if I'm skipping for distance or if I'm skipping for height? That's a really, really easy way to manage that progression. And then finally, one of my all-time favorite plyometrics that's unilateral and extraordinarily complex is a movement mastered by one of the greatest high jumpers of all time, Stephen Holm. And so Stephen Holm had these exercises that I term the Holm hurdle hop, okay? So we're gonna put out our hurdles and we're gonna actually skip over these hurdles at different heights to try and improve our elasticity, to try and improve our ability to generate a very, very large amount of force with a very complex movement. And you can do Holm hurdle hops at 5 sets of 4 on each leg, jumping off of each side so that you actually are explosive off your right leg and off your left leg. That's something that's very challenging for people if they favor one leg or even if they tend to jump off of both legs. So one of the most important factors around sports performance is getting up to speed as quickly as possible. And on top of that, getting down in speed as fast as possible. So one of those differences would be like comparing a bull in a china shop, okay? You just blast right through everything, but you can't throw on the brakes. You can't mimic Barry Sanders. If you look at Barry Sanders, the best part about him was that he could run full speed, slam on the brakes, and cut very, very quickly. So the importance of deceleration cannot be overstated. If we look at dynamic trunk control, agility-based power, okay, throwing those brakes on as quickly as possible, what we're gonna see is we're gonna be able to control that change of direction. Let's say we're in a sport like soccer. Almost all goals are gonna be scored off of a fast approach with a rapid cut. That's how we can then juke out our opponents. It's the same thing even with tennis. We need to train our landing gear. We need to be able to pump those brakes so that we can then change direction and dominate our opponents or improve our athletic fitness. So when we're training that landing gear, okay, we've got to think about what are we trying to focus on? And it's going to be basic deceleration. Okay, so you can start real easy. Anyone can do this. Even my 69-year-old mother can do this, okay? I'm not joking. Is that if I stand here, I can use this line as just a test, right? So I'm here, I'm just gonna jump over and I'm gonna pause, okay? So I'm pause, okay? And ideally, we're not doing this, okay? We wanna hit and pause. And then as we execute that, we're gonna give you this progression where now we can hold this and we can go pause, okay, pause. Now we added that weight. So that's a progression where it's a little bit more challenging. You're gonna start to feel your glutes and your quads and even that ankle stability start to light up, even a little bit in those abs, okay? We're doing this at higher speeds. So now to make it even more complex, we can go with this progression where we're here, we can go a little bit faster. Boom, 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 okay? So that's gonna be even quicker where we've gotta react as fast as we possibly can. The next thing that we can do is get really, really unique. And this is where you gotta start to think about it, okay? Even me, as I'm talking, I'm trying to think through what am I gonna be doing? So I'm gonna be going here. I can jump, drop this, and then land here, okay? That makes it a little bit more complex. You're hitting different positions, you're deloading, okay? So you're gonna go here, boom, boom, okay? That's an easy progression. Now what we can even do, another little variation would be jump, drop, land, single leg bound forward, okay? So you're getting really creative by increasing the lateral movement and then changing that lateral movement to a forward progression. So that's gonna help with jump cuts. That's gonna help if you fall off of a box or you trip on the sidewalk. There's a lot of different practical movements that you can do here. So you're here, maybe we can go like this. 1, 2, 3, boom, boom. You do 5 triples. You could do 6 doubles and try to, by the 4th, 5th, 6th set, get into something more complex. So 1, 2, 3, here, boom. And you can measure that to see if you can improve that jump. So you can use real simple movements like a side kettlebell jump, throw in those pauses, throw in the deload, throw in the single leg bound, and that's a real quick way to improve your overall agility. How do you know when you're ready to progress and actually become that athletic freak? You've got to master the basics, and you can start with all of these different progressions, and you can look at the exposure phase. Start with the easy exercises, just a depth drop or just a box jump. Then you can get into the comprehension phase. Okay, and that's where you would go from just that box jump. Now you're going into a depth drop, into a box jump, into a hurdle hop. And then as you get into the ascension phase, the summit phase, that's when you can make things more complex. Think about the skipping for height. You go skip for height, and then when you head into the summit phase, you can even do the home hurdle hop. So you can take those progressions and then use that inside of your periodized program. But all this goes back to understanding the basics, okay? We have to improve our ability to apply a lot of force. That's the best part around plyometric-based training. And then on top of that, we also have to learn how to land effectively so that we can master those following jump sequences. Even looking at something as simple as skipping. If as we're aging, we're continuing to do these challenging movements, that's gonna help defeat that poor aging ability. Now we're gonna actually be 55, 60 years old and still be able to use those complex movements in everyday life. These are exercises that we've been using for years to get our athletes to perform at their absolute highest ability. And if you guys are interested in this, you can sign up for the Garage Strength Coaches Summit, where for 2 days, we're gonna break down in-season training, off-season training, and even sport-specific work in group settings. You can click on the link down below in the description, head over to garagestrength.com and sign up today to improve your coaching gains. And if you guys want a periodized program where you can use these movements on an athlete day, head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store or the Apple iOS Store. Because remember, freaks, if you want to become a champion, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace.